So the one thing, I did look over the questions. I don't want to go find the cure.
I know, you want to just find the
I
reason
just want to
why.
find the cause and stop it.
Yeah, no, I got that clear,
Okay.
yeah.
I'm tired of the search for the cure, and that just causes more problems and adds more treatments and more stuff. So,
More money.
yeah.
When they moved in front of my colon, it was such a painful, it was so painful when I came out of surgery. So I went and stayed in the hospital a couple of weeks. And they told me that I was at stage 4. I had no stance but that little spot. I didn't get sick. I was going to the doctor, you know?
Yeah.
I was doing my breast exam regular. I was checking everything out. Nobody told me to check out my colon.
To me, it's no longer a surprise that a lot of people get cancer. It's a surprise we all don't get cancer in our 40s.
Do you think that there's a cure for cancer?
I think they have the cure already. They just don't want to release anything because, you know, it's a way to get money, and also I guess they don't want to do anything. That's it. That's why some people die and other people don't die with cancer. You never ask yourself that? If they went to the moon, believe me, they probably know how to cure cancer already.
We have a sick care system. We don't have a health care system.
Does that make you angry?
Yes, it makes me very angry. It makes me very angry.
It turns out that cancer, in many of the cases of cancer, are not diseases. They are a normal part of human biology.
What is your name, sir?
Gary McGinn. Got that? Gary McGinn.
Gary. And why are you here today?
Just check out some options.
What's going on?
Well, I'm probably dying.
You're dying?
Well, we're all dying. I'm probably at the latter stages of lymphoma, and so I'm just kind of like seeing if there's some other things that I can do to either prolong the whatever it is, the slide home, or else flip it over and make some kind of miraculous cure.
Have you taken chemotherapy, radiation?
Yeah, I've done 6 rounds of chemo. Actually, well, 7. And I'm supposed to be doing 1 more in this round. I have a pretty aggressive 6-hour, whatever it is, rat poison, whatever it is that they put in there. Because I was, a year ago, man, I was pretty, almost world class in mountain biking over 60. Today, I can't walk across the street.
Oh, I'm gonna show you, baby. A woman can be tough. I want you to come on and take it. Another little piece of all.
When I realized that the chemotherapy I was taking hadn't changed in 30 years, since Richard Milhouse Nixon said, "We're declaring a war on cancer," it hasn't changed in 30 years. It's just a huge business.
We are here today for the purpose of signing the Cancer Act of 1971. And I hope that in the years ahead, that we may look back on this day and this action as being the most significant action taken during this administration. It could be, because when we consider what cancer does each year in the United States, we find that more people each year die of cancer in the United States than all the Americans who lost their lives in World War II.
When the war on cancer started in 1971 under President Nixon, the survival rate was about 30% of the people, roughly about 28 to 30% of the people survived, which meant around 70% or more died. That's not very good odds. Here we are now 40 some years into the future. We've had huge improvements, in quotation marks, in chemotherapies and radiation techniques, including things like the proton accelerator, and surgical techniques like robotic surgery and all the rest of the things, the laser surgeries, et cetera. Guess what the survival rates are as of last year from the National Cancer Institute director? About 30% of them survive. 33% they said maybe if they catch it early enough. which means about 70% of them die. So it's essentially unchanged in spite of all these improvements. Why?
We're doing the best that we can, given, that there's always limitations. There are always, part of being in Congress is deciding what those, what are you going to fund and what are you not going to fund. Do I not fund body armor for my guys in my soldiers in Afghanistan because I want to find the cure for cancer? And, and those are direct, and there's only so much money to go around, in particular at a time when, as you know, the American public is saying, no more taxes, no more money. We cut our taxes. We don't want to send you any. Well, you don't want to send any more money. What do I choose? That's part of what my job is, making decisions about what we as a country invest in and what has to wait.
I mean, my friends come and they visit me and they cry and I get sad sometimes to see them cry because they're just really sad. They don't want to see me in the bed, and I really don't want to see me in the bed anymore either. I'm pretty tired of it, but it's pretty sad because I don't need. The doctors don't allow me to eat because I have pancreatitis, so I'm not allowed to eat, and yeah, that's why I'm so skinny. I used to be 140 pounds, and I'm 108 now.
So do you have brothers and sisters?
No, I'm an only child. So it can get pretty lonely. But I have my dad with me all day. He doesn't leave. He's here 24/7. I don't really like being alone.
They said we're here to confirm that we will be doing no surgical procedure on Carla, that there's nothing further that we can do for her as a surgical team. So a friend of mine, a charge nurse up in an ICU, came in to sit with me because she knew that he was going to be meeting me to tell me this news. And when she discovered that he had not even looked at the scans himself, he took his team's word, but he himself had never looked at the scans. She asked him to do that. And about 10 minutes later, he came back in and said, we'll be doing a surgical procedure on Carla.
The difference between God and a doctor is that God knows he's not a doctor. You got to get that.
I like that.
Yeah.
About a month ago, it was announced on the internet that cancer is a #1 killer. How many people have to die?
I think it's a tragedy. I think it's a tragedy that, up until now, no one in a position of power has been able to stand up and say, this is how we're going to do this. No one. I mean, is it the president's responsibility to really stand up and make a decision based on the input he gets and not allow others to make the decision for him? I think so. I think this epidemic is a significant enough of a problem for the President of America to personally get involved.
It will launch a new effort to conquer a disease that has touched the life of nearly every American, including me, by seeking a cure for cancer in our time.
I hate to sound evil, but listen, you guys are only going to get a certain amount of information, and after you get to a certain level, unless you're like Michael Moore, you're
trying to be like him. You're prettier than him.
Yeah, I think so.
I didn't decide to get ovarian cancer, but I am alive because of biomedical research. And that should be what everyone has an opportunity is, to be able to defeat these diseases and illnesses because of good science, good biomedical research, which says this is the way you can be cured. This will help you get a second chance at life.
You know, unfortunately, the system of doing research in this country is such that it really squelches new ideas and squelches answers. You go into breast cancer research wanting to cure the disease, and then you realize you've got to get tenure. And in order to get tenure, you've got to get grants, you've got to write papers. And it can't be too big a project because you only have a certain amount of time to get tenure. So you write a little project and you make it not too different than that of your mentor because, you know, if it's too far out there, they won't fund you. And so then you do that, and you do it in rats because they're faster. And then you do another study like that, and then you do another one. And then after 10 years, you've got tenure and you forgot you were going to cure cancer.
If you can cure cancer without chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery, do you know that you're a criminal? They can find Osama bin Laden. No, they can't find him. But if you can cure cancer without the officially sanctioned FDA-approved ways, they're coming after you. It's really insane, really, if you think about it. We're living in a lunatic asylum.
My cancer doctor, which is why I don't see him anymore, is because I was going to continue to see him just so that he can stage me, see where I'm at. And sure enough, they did. The guy comes in, and I knew it was not good because he brings this lead box and opens it up, and there's this lead syringe-looking thing that they're going to inject me with. So he's protected, but I'm about to get this put into my bloodstream. And I'm like, so I look at him, I was like, oh my God, this is really freaky. I was like, this is something like in the movies. And he's like, oh, you know, it's just that, you know, because it's radioactive, it's radiation. I'm like, I know, and you're going to inject it in my body, which causes cancer, and I have cancer. Isn't that crazy?
Most modern medicine treats a symptom. And that's one of the problems I have with conventional medicine. Not to say that there aren't good things with conventional medicine, there really are. For acute care, there's nothing like conventional medicine here in the USA. I believe it's the best in the world. For diagnostics, I also believe that they're the best in the world. But for chronic conditions, degenerative conditions, long-term problems, which is what most of us suffer with over the long haul, conventional medicine falls far short of what really is needed. And that's because they basically treat symptoms.
With all the fundraising that is going on in this country with cancer, Congress actually awards the National Institute of Health $28.5 billion. Of that, $5.6 billion of it goes to researching cancer. With all this money that's being spent and taxpayer dollars, my question to you is, why isn't there a better alternative?
You know, making final decisions about how to spend funds for cancer research is a difficult process, and there is a good bit of disagreement, and there's always a lot of debate, and we deal with that in a couple of ways. One is we try to get lots of input from lots of sources, lots of different people, on how we should be spending our precious research dollars, and that's not just from the scientific community. That's also from patient advocacy groups. That's also from politicians and policymakers, Congress, the executive branch leadership, all the way up to the White House.
Do you know how much money is spent on the treatment of cancer?
Well, you know, it's certainly in billions, many billions, in fact. Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge industry, and it's been said so many times, it's almost old to say it, that more people make a living off of cancer than die from it. You know, it's an industry. Cancer is an industry.
Well, it's $1 billion to get through Food and Drug. I mean, the cost is astronomical. Food and Drugs, they're a government monopoly, and their incentive is to eliminate any possible harm in the future, which, of course, you could do that by not doing anything. And so it costs more and more, so it wipes out all the little companies. The big pharmas love it because regulations prevent competition. And anyway, we need cancer chemotherapy agents, and new ones are coming down the pike, but I'm not against that. But my interest is more figuring out what's causing the disease and how to prevent it. It's a lot cheaper.
There are two kinds of genetics, and people get this mixed up. Genetic can mean anything that's the result of expression of a gene. Or genetics, in some people's parlance, means inherited, and that's different. All cancer is genetic in the first sense. It's all the expression or lack of expression of genes in an inappropriate way that facilitates the bad behavior of these cells and makes them unstable and makes them pick up more and more bad habits of gene expression as time goes on.
you need two things to end up with what's clinical cancer. You need an abnormal mutated cell, and it needs to be in a local environment that's egging it on. So it's like having a kid that's got bad tendencies growing up in a bad neighborhood with gangs and drive-by shootings and drugs, and if you take that kid and you put him out in the country and you send him to the Boy Scouts and church and he's on the farm, the same kid could turn out very differently. No change in their DNA. So really, where alternative things function in breast cancer is probably not about the mutated cell, but it's about the environment around the cell that either encourages or doesn't encourage it. We know, for example, exercise will reduce the risk of getting breast cancer and reduce the risk of recurrence. Now, why would exercise do it? It doesn't affect breast cancer cells, but it does affect the whole environment in your body. Meditation, same thing. Stress reduction, same thing. So I think there's a place for both the alternatives as well as the treatments that are trying to kill the cells.
For most cancers, we still don't have all the answers. We still don't have the best therapy, the ideal therapy. We may be able to cure some children with cancer now, in fact, quite a few, but at a cost, significant toxicity. So even in those children, we need to find treatments that are less toxic and as effective or more effective. And then for the kids that don't do well, we clearly need to find new treatments. You find those treatments through clinical trials. So I always believe that the best therapy we can give a child is within a clinical trial.
The nurse that we had come to trust and love over the last 12 months was telling me all the things that I didn't want to hear, that hospice would be calling me, that Carla would be losing her mobility, that if we wanted to have conversation, we needed to have it now because it was all going to be changing and she would lose her vision, like telling me everything that I didn't want to hear. It was just inside that feeling of like, shut up. But yet you want to hear it because it's not living in reality if you don't listen to what they have to say. And that feeling of like wanting to myself get sick at the same time from all these things being thrown at me. And then they said, but there is a treatment that she could try. Will it help? Will it save her life? No, but it will help us to understand more about this treatment, about this tumor. It will help other kids. Wait a minute here. So you're asking me to put my daughter back on this treatment, but not to save her life, but to put her through everything that she had felt like she was just getting her own life back. We knew that this decision would have to be hers.
I guess what frustrates me more than anything is seeing the kids go through the long-term side effects. We've gone to funerals of kids who have died because of the side effects, not because of the cancer, but because of the side effects, and seeing the suffering that they go through and just what the families go through, it will break your heart.
Actually, a big part of the problem are the doctors. That is, many doctors don't discuss research and research participation with their patients. Many don't refer their patients to clinical trials. And the doctor has to have a system around him or her that supports research being conducted in a healthcare setting.
Do you think our doctors have a responsibility to tell their patients about clinical trials?
Most definitely, yeah.
Do you know that most of them don't?
I would guess that, yes.
A typical phase 1 trial, which usually involves about 10 to 12, maybe 15 patients, and then we're first testing a new vaccine and monitoring safety as well as the immune response in the patients, they usually run about $1 million to $1.5 million.
There are trials that have been approved that there's not money to run them. But that's when you're talking into the millions and millions and, even billions of dollars to make that happen.
Yeah, if somebody could come up with something, come up with a system though, and said, look, here, take these steps, do this thing, and you can cure cancer, it wouldn't happen. It just would not happen because, you know what, there's too much money out there.
Usually someone like Pfizer or Wyeth or a large pharmaceutical company will come and buy your license from you. It's normal because they have the money to then go spend $750 million on getting you through the phase 3 trial.
If you're doing a study for FDA approval, then yeah, it's expensive. There are a lot of rules and regulations. There's all kinds of ways you have to do it. But
Does that frustrate you?
no, it doesn't frustrate me because I don't think the answer is finding more drugs. I think the problem, if the goal is drugs, yeah, then it's very expensive. But the goal doesn't have to be drugs. The goal can be finding out the cause. Finding out that ulcers were caused by an infection meant you could use antibiotics we already had on the shelf. That wasn't so expensive.
Doctors, they don't cure shit. Same disease has been hanging out since I was a kid. AIDS, sickle cell, tuberculosis, cancer. They ain't cure that because ain't no money in the cure. The money's in the medicine. That's how you get paid on the comeback. That's how a drug dealer makes his money on the comeback. That's all the government is, a bunch of motherfucking drug dealers on the comeback.
Chemotherapy that Carla went through, very tough on her.
She developed pancreatitis. At one time, she had esophagitis, pancreatitis, and typhlitis, all three at the same time. And they were watching her bowels because they thought they were going to erupt.
My mom starved to death. My mom did not die from her liver shutting down and her, getting jaundiced and dying. That didn't happen. My mom died because of all of the chemotherapy and all of the drugs that were in her body that just enabled her to basically stop eating. She just stopped eating and she just died.
Chemo's really bad. It makes you, the first time I had to come to the emergency room was because I fell on the floor and I couldn't walk. My mom had to pick me up and my grandma, and they had to put me in the car and we were driving at 80 miles an hour trying to get here. It was scary. I was yelling because it hurt it so bad, and I was yelling because my mom was going too fast. So I was just a little bit scared because my mom was really panicking. She didn't know what to do. So she was way over the limit, and nobody I was telling her, Mom, my cop's gonna get you. She's like, if a cop brings me, I hope he helps me. I'm telling him to put the siren on and help me open the road. And I was just oh Mom, but I was in pain.
Were you scared?
Of course.
Yeah. What was going through your head?
Well, when I walked out of the hospital next door where they did my colonoscopy, I asked the gastroenterologist, what is the next step? Well, I am the oncologist. I should know. The 100 steps that I had to take from the hospital to my office, everything came to my mind. I decided Armin has the cancer and Dr. Shabazian is going to take care of Armin. I became two people. I made peace with myself. All of a sudden I come and I sit behind this desk, pick up the staging book, stage myself. Of course, you cannot stage without surgery. All you have is a biopsy. But I started thinking correctly. That's how I dealt with it. By putting the doctor in charge.
Was it scary to you, or were you like, I'm going to take control of this situation?
Terrifying. I was out of my mind with fear. The first 2 or 3 weeks, I did nothing but cry. I was absolutely terrified.
Who else sits in a room with other human beings on a daily basis and talks about death and philosophy and what might happen, and you acknowledge that you're both dying?
I'm not saying I didn't feel depressed in the beginning. I did. I felt really depressed.
What were you afraid of?
I thought I was going to die. You think, oh gosh, how long have I got to live? I've got to do this. What about my kids? What about my husband? What about, and then you realise, well, I don't want to die, and I'm not going to, not yet. Not yet. I've got too many things to do. I got on and I thought, well, I'm not going to do all these things. I had pamphlets sent, I had books sent to me, I had people saying, go and do this counselling, go and do that counselling. I went once and I went, this isn't for me. I don't want to sit down and have these long, in-depth conversations with a nice young girl of 21 or 22 who means well, and she's got the degree and the piece of paper to say, I'm a psychologist and I can talk to you. But I went, no, I don't want to do this. So I didn't go back.
She doesn't really know what it feels like, does it?
She gave me all these things that I should be doing, should be saying, should be reading, should be listening to. So I spoke to my very best friend who'd been through it, and she felt the same as me. And we went, no, look, just do what the doctor says. Do whatever else you can. It doesn't matter what it is. Do it and get on with your life.
They pretty much were like 120%. It's gone. We've gotten all of it, and then he went ahead and had the chemo. And then, within months, the cancer was back. And then the worst part was that it came back very aggressive, and we went to Johns Hopkins, took him to the best, place we thought he could be. And at that point, they removed, I'm not for sure what all that is, like larynx vocal cords. We always referred to it as the voice box because he couldn't speak for a year and a half. And so the worst part was seeing this man go through so much pain and not even be able to say, ouch, when somebody was, like, that's the worst thing is I remember is like that he could not express like that hurts or please don't do that or okay, I'm ready or, it was just so sad. And I would just see like a tear run down his face when he was in so much pain, but he couldn't say it. And I mean, it literally affected me so bad because I have such major anxiety, like about my health and, being treated if something happened, that I got cancer or one of my kids got cancer or just, because I saw the absolute horrific thing that he went through. It was terrible.
Oh, another thing, she's probably had about 40, 50 times general anesthesia because they do this.
40, 50 times anesthesia?
Yes, because she has to get this thing called methotrexate through the spine so the cancer doesn't come in the spine. And some kids can take it while they're awake, but she just couldn't tolerate the pain. So we had to put her under. And they do that as part of the chemo many times. So that was another tough part.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the worst part was my parents couldn't sleep with me in BMT.
Yeah.
So every night I would be alone, like in the small room watching TV.
But at the new hospital, I don't know if I heard the rooms are bigger, so there might be, the parents might stay, I don't know. We had to go every night and come back for 2 months, over 2 months here.
How much is a piece of radiology equipment?
A simple machine that doesn't do much and has very limited shaping capabilities. It could be in $500,000 to $1 million range. A machine that's extremely sophisticated can be in the over $3 million range. And the majority of the machines that we sell are somewhere in the middle of those two extremes, although more and more we're seeing people buy the high-end machines because they sort of feel like, well, I'm going to treat cancer patients here. I really ought to get the best machine I can for them.
Where is Varian located other than Palo Alto? You have sales offices?
We have sales offices all over the world. We have manufacturing offices here and in Las Vegas. We manufacture our security equipment there. We manufacture our X-ray tubes and flat panel detectors in Salt Lake City. We manufacture simulators for the radiation therapy business in a town called Crawley, which is south of London. We manufacture our treatment planning equipment in Finland. We manufacture software all over the world in a variety of operations. We have a major operation here, and we have a major operation in Canada, in Winnipeg, and we have another major operation in Switzerland.
So I go back to the doctor so he can stage me and tell me what the results were. And I could barely walk, and then he wanted to do the bone marrow, where they take it from the lower back and see if it's in your bones. And I'm thinking, I'm like in agony. And I told him, I said, there's no way. I said, I'm a mess now for the stuff you're doing. Oh, no, it causes the headache, but it doesn't cause your bones to hurt. That's just the cancer. I said, no, that can't be true because I didn't have that till after you guys did this. And he argued with me that that wasn't it. I said, yeah, but it's cause and effect because I didn't have it, and then you did that, and then I had it.
soon as I was diagnosed, my daughter changed my diet. I went straight to carrot juice and kale juice, things I never tasted before in my life. She even gave me beet juice one time. Have you ever had beet juice? That was something different. That was different. I swear it was.
If you do nothing to change the reason why the disease starts in the first place, if you do nothing to change the internal biochemistry of the body, to change the paradigm, how can you expect to have any different outcomes? You can't. The outcomes will continue just as they always have until there's a shift in the way we treat cancer and other long-term diseases.
The Gerson therapy is designed to cleanse the body, particularly cleanse the liver, because all the cleansing that the body does has to go through the liver. That's where everything is filtered out. The coffee enemas have nothing to do with the colon. The caffeine in the coffee stimulates the bile ducts to empty, so that instead of emptying about once every 24 hours, they empty 3 or 4 times every 24 hours. Because as the tumor cells lyse or die, they're extremely toxic, and they've got to be gotten out of the body. So it frees up your system to be able to attack it. It frees up your immune system to attack it.
And then get rid of the toxins.
And then get rid of the toxins.
Have you lost your hair?
Oh yeah, within the first month. I just wear this because it's cold. I'm not really afraid of like my bald head. I actually like it.
You look cute.
No, I just wear this because it gets cold and the air bothers my hair follicles. And then I scratch my head a lot. I do. But, yeah, I don't mind it. My hair being like this. I kind of like it. Everyone else like seems to hate it. I'm just like. I mean, you have to pass through a nightmare, but like, it's not as bad as people like make it seem. You know, the word is more scarier than anything. The word cancer. Cancer is not killing it's not killing you physically. Chemo is. I'm more afraid of chemo than I am of cancer, now that I know. So when I hear like brand new kids that come in, like new diagnosed children, come in and they still have their hair, and I was talking to them and everything, and they're just telling me, oh, I'm gonna lose my hair. They start crying because they're gonna lose their hair. Or they start crying because they have cancer. And I was like that too, but knowing now it's not cancer. You shouldn't be crying for cancer. You should be crying for chemo, which is killing everyone.
She actually apologized to me that she was so much work, and she wanted to say she was sorry. So we talked and laughed. She always had an amazing way of making me laugh during the most craziest moments. That next day, she was different, very different. I gave her a bath, and it was a tender, beautiful moment. And it was her and I in the bathtub. And the crazy thing about it is, as wonderful as the moment that was, I could hear my boys downstairs jumping on the trampoline. You see, life for them was continuing on. But for us in the bathtub, our world had stopped.
You were telling me in 2010 that we haven't come up with anything better than let's poison the whole body, let's kill every living and dividing cell in the hope that maybe we get some cancer cells that might be in there. You're really telling me that that's the best we have? I had a hard time when I was on chemo thinking that this was doing me any good, that it was doing me anything other than harming my body. That's why I only did 5 rounds of it. I couldn't do the last 3. It made no sense to me whatsoever. And I think it's my belief that in the near future, we're going to look back and go, oops, maybe chemotherapy wasn't the best thing that we could have thought of.
We have the three pieces: the National Institutes of Health, Center for Disease Control, and the Food and Drug Administration, which are what I call 3 jewels in the crown of our of our biomedical research, which gives us really the cutting edge in the world in terms of discovery.
I didn't know that cancer had a lot of media. Evidently, every single one of these organizations has a PR firm. Okay, so let's see about calling our friend who is in the press department of the FDA. Hey, Karen, it's Valerie McCaffrey calling again. Okay, this is about the 4th time I've been trying to give you a call. I look forward to speaking with you. Hi. How are you? So is the FDA used to be in here? Food and Drug Administration?
I don't know.
You don't? Okay. Okay. Wow, they even have the wrong address on the website. So it's like we can't even find them if we wanted to. Hello? Hi, do you guys manage this building? Yes. Do you know what happened to the FDA? Food and Drug Administration was here? No, that's okay. We're not on you.
You could let them know also, thanks for leaving. Well, they kind of pulled a fast one on us. Are you one of those conspiracy theorist type of people?
No, I'm just a factual person.
I am. I would tell you it probably has to do with the fact that FDA doesn't really truly have our best interest in heart.
Yeah, we have family members that have died, and we're tired of it, actually, to be honest. FDA, do you have to take them out to a lot of dinners and lunches?
Oh, you can't do that. No.
Who is the FDA? I mean, like,
I don't know.
Who are they? It's like the CIA. Who are those people?
Well, the FDA is a large agency of the federal government that really oversees all approval of drugs in this country.
You know, they're the regulators. They're the people who make the rules and change the rules and determine whether or not your drug is suitable. And I think they have a very hard job and they catch a bad rap a lot of times because they have to balance between what's best for progressing the treatment of a disease and making sure that you're protected.
If a food affects your health, that cannot be communicated to you. If an element in foods, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, consumed at, say, above the recommended daily allowance, affects your health and may treat disease, that information cannot be communicated to you. By law, it is forbidden. It is forbidden even when it is true. Even if it is demonstrably true to every scientist's satisfaction on Earth, it cannot legally be communicated to you in any country that regulates drugs.
You know, if we look at history, then actually a lot of the pioneers that actually said, hey, I know exactly how to deal with cancer, their reputations were destroyed. Their businesses were destroyed. And so we go back to politics because after all, there's not a lot of money in going back to nature and teaching people how to take care of themselves.
How do you tell someone who has 6 months to live that it's going to take 10 to 15 more years to research more cures?
Well, we have the responsibility that if we advise somebody that these pills or this type of surgery or these types of medicines will prolong your life or eliminate the problem or keep the pain under control, whatever it is that we're suggesting that this does, obviously we have to study it. Is the FDA a little bit out of control? I don't really know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist. It's hard for me to really be able to tell you that. I do know that it's a litigious society here. I mean, there's a lot of people suing for God knows what all day long, you know? So, I mean, I can understand when the FDA says, we want to be pretty sure that if we give you this medicine today, in 5 years, you're not going to be growing a second head out of your body. Okay? And because if you grow a second head out of your body, you're going to come back and you're going to go after those companies. And we told those companies that their product was good. See, because there's the short-term effect and then there's the longer-term effect. And some of the times you have to wait for the longer-term effects because some of these drugs, I mean, especially with cancer, it's such a nasty thing. You really have to fight it with something very nasty.
Have any of these products been known to help any particular ailments?
Well, they have, but unfortunately I can't say anymore because the FDA and FTC kind of shut us down, and now we really can't say specifically what they do. We could just talk about the attributes of each plant or each food. So we can't say specifically what they would do anymore, unfortunately.
Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of reasons behind that. I think we're taken away from the pharmaceutical sales, so they don't like that. Plus, also as well, we're healing people. We're not causing harm. So they don't like it whenever we try to heal someone, because if we heal people, then that gets them off pharmaceutical drugs, and then so that doesn't pad their pockets.
Why do you think that we found a cure, or we could at least live with like AIDS, but in 20 years, and we've had cancer for what we know over 100 years, and billions of dollars have been put in research, and it's such a slow process?
Well, you have to look at the pathology behind it. What exactly is happening with AIDS? That's an infection, and for years infection has been around as well. And we have developed with advanced science to treat infections. However, with cancer, it's a little bit different. Every cancer varies with different biology, and so it's difficult. So we just have to continue ongoing research for cancer to find a cure.
And are you a doctor?
Yes, I am.
So what do you think's wrong? Do you think something's wrong with how long it takes to get things approved?
It's always going to take a long time, unless law schools could stop producing lawyers, which would be a great service to our country if we cut back our law schools to 1/10 the number of lawyers. And eventually, all these extra lawyers that are sitting around wouldn't be creating all these issues. And then, if there were less lawyers, I imagine eventually the time to develop drugs would be drastically reduced. But that's never going to happen in our lifetime. Cancer will be cured before the problem of too many lawyers will be cured.
Why is it that it's taken such a long time to get to the root of the cause, which is what you're talking about, to be able to eradicate disease across the board? What's stopping us?
Laws. Max Gerson actually went to Congress back in the late 40s, presented his 50 cases that the book is based on, and actually Senator Claude Pepper, who just recently passed away and was a senator for many, many years, was there when Max Gerson presented those cases and presented the nutritional approach. Since nutrition isn't big money and doesn't have a lot of lobbyists and a lot of money behind it, and is not a big, easy way to make a lot of money quickly, it didn't get the support of the lobbyists, and unfortunately, what we now have for cancer treatment in particular is what won out and what is currently being used. We as a people need to talk to our senators, our congressmen, our representatives, and get the laws changed.
I want to make sure that I've covered all my bases, with some of the material that's available here. I like stuff like this because it provides an alternative to going to an oncologist once every 6 weeks for 20 minutes, who's 30 years old, has no diagnostic skills whatsoever, and reads off of a piece of paper what somebody else told her to read to me because somebody else interpreted it. So,
784,000 Americans every year die due to modern medicine. Now, what other industry could kill that many people and still be around the next day? If a dietary supplement were to kill one person, Congress will hold hearings and try to ban that supplement, much like they did with ephedra, which really, if it killed one person, maybe 4 or 5, not 25, not dozens, not hundreds, it was due to abuse. But you use a drug properly, as prescribed by your doctor, or even over the counter, you can die and do. The number one reason why people are admitted to the hospital emergency rooms for liver failure is the use of an over-the-counter drug called Tylenol, acetaminophen. That's not happening in the dietary supplement industry. People aren't dying from using appropriately these natural supplements, but yet we can't be free to speak. If we have any economic, let's say, interaction with a company that produces, or if we actually produce something that can cure cancer, that is a violation, as if you're some sort of terrorist. That's how you're treated in this country.
The regulatory pathway has become an uncontrollable animal. And it involves not just the regulatory agencies, whether it is in the US or in Europe and elsewhere, but it involves a terrific network of medical and scientific industry.
So the university is a very special place because it has this sort of intellectual environment that's tremendous. It has a clinical component to it with this research hospital, and it has tremendous resources. So it's able to support the investigators here through getting charitable donations from investors. Scratch that, if you would. From getting charitable donations from philanthropists in New York and around the country to support the research here in a way that I can't find support at other places.
It's estimated that it costs around $1 billion to take a drug from the early stages all the way through the FDA approval. And so eventually you need somebody who has a lot of money, who's going to potentially make a lot of profits to recover their money. So we try to get these inventions started. Most of the time we license smaller companies, biotech companies, who then take on the development from us, and then usually they in turn somehow put it in the hands of big pharmaceutical companies, or they get purchased by a big pharmaceutical company.
The mass majority of money coming into the media is coming in through the drug industry. They have the money to advertise and editorialize and get the good press because they buy it. And they realize, or I guess people don't realize when you see freedom of speech or freedom of the press, it's bought.
Some time ago, probably in the 1950s, there was a shift in medical thinking that what you ate and what you breathed and what you drank wasn't as important as the scientific power of the prescription pill or the surgical scalpel. And we gave up our nutrition and herbal birthright to the pharmaceutical companies and to the doctors who were not taught nutrition and natural therapies in medical school, but rather taught how to use and prescribe medication.
When I came back this time, I couldn't walk because the chemo and Christine left me unable to walk. So, yeah, I stayed in the beds in the rooms for 2 weeks, unable to walk. And I had a commode next to me. My mom had to literally pick me up and place me on the commode because I couldn't walk at all.
Don't you feel like it would be really great if every single American, like, put a group together and they all walk to the White House and just like, we're not leaving until there's a cure.
Right.
You know?
There's a lot of bureaucracy that is has to be completely it's got to be unbelievable from the outside looking in and totally incomprehensible. And it's all in the spirit of patient protection, but at what price is the question. Mm-hmm. We have lots of forms, we have lots of data, we have lots of contracts, we have lots of budgets.
Yeah.
And we spend lots of time on all of those things to protect patients and actually to ensure that that these trials happen. But I agree with you that it's not fast enough, it's not efficient enough, and it's actually just getting worse.
I'm excited that there's real progress being made in cancer research, and I think it's really important what you guys are doing in making a documentary like this because the public doesn't understand. They're spending lots of resources, tax dollars, to support science, and it's not a theoretical ivory tower, academic exercise. People are thinking seriously hard about how to use the power of modern basic science to develop new breakthroughs for treatment of cancer. So it's a real enterprise, and the support from the public in terms of taxpayer dollars and support for cancer research foundations really is essential. I can tell you personally, it's critical for the work we do.
I feel like there's a lot of public things going on and fundraising for cancer, but as far as like the progress, I don't see a ton of it. And I feel like everywhere you go, there's always, donate this for this cancer research, but you don't hear of like big things coming out that they're finding with how much is being put into it at this point.
So, what is the big deal? I mean, these are elements of foods. Why is the government hyperventilating to prevent this information? Why is it driving out of existence companies that tell this information without government approval? Why is it incarcerating these people and treating them like those that kill other people when they're actually selling things that help people? Why are they doing this all over the world? It's money.
My daughter, who's 25 years old, is in the room and waiting for me to come out. And he takes advantage and tells her that my cancer went from curable to that I am dying, and put this fear in my daughter. And that really upset me. So when I get out of the bathroom, I go in there, he's not in the room, and she wants to prepare me. Because she's been battling with, like, she's very supportive. Like, this is what you want to do, Mom, that's fine. But she's, she wants me to live. And I'm like, yes, this is the way to do it. So she goes, I just want to prepare you. And she looked really down. And I'm listening. And the moment she did that, my whole body got hot. Because I knew it wasn't going to be good. But I didn't want that in my realm. Like, I don't want that put into me. So she said, he said you went from curable to dying. I said, oh, really? And inside I'm like, oh my God! And I freaked out and got scared. I'm like, okay. The only thing I thought of is game on. I gotta do more research. I gotta saturate myself with more things that really are live enzymes, more juicing, more live food, less cooked food. I'm alive, so I need live food. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I gotta do more, find out where I gotta go, and I'm doing this all natural, and I'm gonna knock this out. I didn't go, oh my God, I gotta do chemo. Mm-hmm. I was like, no, game on. So I looked at my daughter and I said, you know what? I'm not going anywhere. I said, I'm gonna be a huge contribution to this world. I'm gonna make a difference. I said, I got lots to do, so I'm not going anywhere. And if that's what he said, great. I wanna blow his mind. I really do.
You know that this formula helped your mother, helped your husband be cured of cancer. Why doesn't the rest of the world know about this?
Well, there was enough advertisement. It was in newspapers from here to nowhere. It was widespread that this was going on. But yet, they stopped her treatment.
And they threatened to put her in jail?
Yes.
They harassed her?
Yes. They came with a warrant once to take her to jail.
What happened then?
And she went to the door when the officer came, and he told her he had a warrant for her arrest. And she said, what's the charge? He said, practicing medicine without a license. So she said, anything I have given has only been to help people. And if it's an offense in this great country of ours to help people, then I'm guilty and I'll get my coat.
And what did he say?
He tore up the warrant. And he didn't serve it. He just tore it up.
You know, it's interesting. It's almost like when the FDA attacks somebody, they probably must be doing something right.
Yeah.
So,
oh, so you guys have been attacked a lot.
oh yeah. We get attacked, and we had to change all of our literature, all of our labels. So obviously we were probably doing something right.
I went into a health food store up in Ogden, Utah, and I met a woman that was 80 years old. I loved her very much because she was independent. She wouldn't take welfare, and she had this little health food store about 12 by 12. And I walked in and she was shaking and she was white. And I said, what's the matter, Mrs. Goddard? And she said, the officials just were in here from the federal and the state. And I said, well, but that's all right, because I had just come back. I was a B-17 pilot in World War II. And if you'd say the government to me, I saluted, because the government could never do any wrong in my... I believed that my government would never hurt anybody. I really believed it.
Do you believe that now?
Well, I knew it wasn't true after I met with her, because she was the evidence. I walk in, she's there shaking like this, and when I see a little old lady shaking by herself, that's what I went to war for, is to make sure it never happened in this country. And I said, what was the problem? And she said, well, they said if I would take these books on herbs and burn them, they wouldn't prosecute. Now, they didn't burn them themselves. They didn't go in and rip off the shelves, but they said, you burn them. And she had done it.
She actually burned her own books.
Burned the books because they had told her to do it.
Did you ever see any books burned yourself?
I was there when it was burning, and it was in a. They had 55-gallon drums. I went back in, and the books that she had put in there were still smoldering.
Do you think that there's some limitations there if somebody is terminal?
There aren't limitations anymore. We took the gag rule off several years ago in the Congress. We said it was illegal for people to gag doctors about what all the alternatives are with respect to something. But here's the problem. There's a lot of pressure from medical health insurance companies, who deal with doctors, to have the doctors not tell clients about more expensive or exploratory, experimental types, because that's more expensive. I mean, if I'm a health insurer and you get cancer and you die on me in 6 months, if I'm still insuring you, I know in 6 months I'm gonna be done with you. But now, if I have to start to fund your experimental drugs and stuff, and you might live 15 years, and I gotta keep insuring you, but you're gonna be a real drain, that's gonna be not profitable for me. I'm not saying all companies do that, but let me tell you, as a congressperson, I've seen plenty of examples where healthcare companies, really don't want to be spending money on you, because they make money when you don't cost them anything.
What about alternative medicine?
The notion that medicine can, let alone should, stamp out alternative treatments is ridiculous. We can't stamp it out because it arises from a deeply human need that we aren't meeting.
When I went to UCLA, they got nice people. I can't say, but my doctor, every time I saw him, after the initial visit, it just seemed like I got depressed. The last time I saw him, I decided I wanted to leave. He told me, the best you can hope for, be on chemo the rest of your life. The rest of my life on chemo. Who wants to be on chemo the rest of their life? You can get a 2-week break. A 2-week break. I can make sure you get a 2-week break, but you'll be on it the rest of your life.
Let's pretend like I have two patients, both named Mary. Both are going to pass away from their cancer in exactly 11 months. Mary 1 is on a treatment that makes her feel empowered, makes her feel safer, helps her get through her day and get a lot more out of her relationships and her ability to work, and dies at exactly the same time. And Mary B lives in fear and feels out of control and has more sadness and depression during those exact 11 months. Who got better treatment?
What made you get into this type of practice?
Well, when I was 30 years old, I get the last stage of lung cancer. The last stage or third stage.
You had third stage of lung cancer.
Wow. That means the third stage B, the stage B. And only a few months to live. And then if I go through chemo, I can live longer. And then I asked oncologist, then how long I will? He said that, well, instead of the 3 to 6 months, you may live 3 or 4 months more. Okay, so I said, what the difference, you know?
Uh-huh.
So that I refuse it. So I change it to eat the food from God. Okay, as Genesis in the Bible say, Genesis chapter 1 verse 29, eat the fruits and surface of and fruit in the tree. And I eat that way, 100% raw. 6 months, I feel good. 9 months, totally disappear, cancer cell disappear.
What did your doctor say when after 9 months you were done with
They say cancer will come back anytime.
And how long has it been?
Huh?
How long has it been since you've had cancer?
That's when I was 30.
30, so like 40,
Now I'm
40
over
years?
70.
So 40 years.
Yeah.
Are you still waiting for the cancer to come back? Do you think it's going to come back?
They're waiting, but they're waiting. They all to the grave. I'm still here.
After you were cured from cancer, what was the next thing that you did?
The next thing is I try to educate the people how God's food can help your health, can bring the health. Not because our body don't need medication. Our body is not lacking medication. Our body is lacking food. The building material of the body is the food we eat.
So tell me about a patient that you cured. Tell me about the hardest.
I will always say, if this is the most question people ask me.
Really?
How many patients did you heal the people? I tell in my audience, I heal nobody. I heal nobody, no anything. I have more than 300 or more, 1,000 of these people come to me, but I never heal any patient of themselves. They heal themselves because they listen to teacher, and their student, teacher teach everybody the same thing. But the student get the A, sometimes get the D, the student get A, they're alive. Student get D, they're dead.
If you had one thing to say to the world, just one thing, one thought, what would you say?
The word it says that awake, stay far away from medication, care yourself. Your body is God's temple.
Our bodies are amazing. Our bodies are super biological computers, really. If you stretch your imagination enough, our bodies are amazing. Our circulatory systems, our nervous systems are perfect. They're made perfect. Our immune system is one of the greatest systems on Earth. Let's put our attention to supporting our own miraculous bodies that we have. Let's understand what it's like to be in health instead of expecting sickness to come. Let's support these therapies and not call them quacks, not call them crazy because they're using food to cure people. Gerson therapy, curing one after another, plant therapies, plant spirit therapies, these alternative things that are curing cancer left and right. Go find it. I would say go on your journey. Find these things. They're out there. Cancer is an opportunity for us as a society to change this paradigm of health and health insurance and getting sick and working ourselves to the bones so when we get sick because we work so hard, we can have insurance to help us when we get sick. It's like we really have to bust out of this.
We need a strategy where regulation and technology have to really keep pace and work very intimately to make sure that this field is advanced. We cannot take an adversarial role where we say, yes, technology is developing and it makes sense, but first you have to prove it by our own standards that have been put into place 30, 35 years ago. That is a hindrance to progress. We have to take some risks. We can't take the attitude that regulators are the policemen for industry.
So he came in, not knowing that my daughter told me, or probably knew she would. And he goes, okay, and he brings the paperwork, and he's showing me, this is where you were at, and this is where you are now. And I looked, and I could see the numbers, and he's like, see, and I go, well, let me read it. Let me read it. Like, calm down, guy. He was freaking out, like he was trying to make everything intense. And I'm like, not with me. So I looked at it, and he was right. The numbers were doubled. And I said, well, that makes sense. I said, because before you did this poisonous test, I said, the other one made me really sick. So I knew that it made things worse. So when you did this test, of course. I said, absolutely. I said, but give me a chance. I said, I haven't gotten a chance to detox. I said, I got the common board coming in, and he's like, and he's just getting frustrated with me. And I told him, I said, please don't be frustrated. And he goes, no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are, I can see it. I said, just trust me. Trust me with this. He goes, I do trust you, he said, and I know that you think this is the right thing. And I said, and I know you think this is the right thing. I said, and I get this is the way you were trained. You were trained, these are the symptoms, and then you give them this. I said, and I trained myself to know, these are the symptoms, let's look for the cause and get rid of that cause so the symptom goes away and then the symptom's not there. I said, that's how I've been learning. I said, and I'm telling you, if you trust me, I'm gonna come back and you're gonna find a complete different person, and that's somebody without cancer.
You know so much for being 16 years old.
Yeah, that's what they tell us, that for being 16, you're gonna have like a mind of a 30-year-old, because you're forced to go through things that are really hard in a really young age, and it's tough.
Well, I just hope that, all the people you helped, that this helps you.
I really think so.
You will. We'll just keep strong, But
when you get better, what are you gonna do? When I get better, I think I'm gonna stick to this and come back. And I don't know, try to like help other kids who are barely starting. But I really want to come back. Like at the beginning I was like, I never want to see the hospital again, but now that I think about it, there's kids who are gonna be here more, and there's someone who has to do something and try to help them, because you get really lonely.
For me, God puts in you a calmness that you can't really give yourself,
Mhm.
And so people always ask me, how are you so calm? I said, I have no clue, but just having a lot of faith, like, whatever God's will is, it's not really your choice.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's not like there was anything I could have done to control it or make it better or worse.
I kissed her, and I just said, wanted to see how you're doing, sweetheart. And she says, Mom, I'm ready to go be with God now. Out of the blue. We had not talked about this. And I said, well, then go. Go be with God. I don't have to worry about you. You're the best daughter a mother could ever hope for. And I kissed her. Nothing prepares you for that. It's like that flashback of that moment where the doctor says there's a very ugly tumor. Nothing prepared me for what I was going to say then, and nothing certainly prepared me for this.
When the war on cancer started, the cancer rate in the United States was 1 in 8. As of last year, cancer rate for females in the U.S., 1 in 3. Cancer rate for males, 1 in 2. This is National Cancer Institute, National Institutes of Health figures. So, guys, we're losing the war on cancer in spite of all the improved chemotherapeutic techniques, surgery techniques, radiation techniques.
You can't burn a cancer out of a body with radiation. You can't poison it out of the body without poisoning the body as well. And I feel that nature holds the answer, the only answer for cancer patients. And as such, we should have it. Our constitutional rights at the moment are being denied to us. And it shouldn't even come down to a court hearing. It should be a matter of fact that we have what we want for our bodies and not have to fight for it in this manner.
Well, I think it should be my privilege. If I want to take the SEAC or whatever it could be that might make me live a little longer, I think that should be my privilege. I think I should have what I want to do instead of them telling me that I'm going to die.
Did they do that?
Yes, the doctor told me that under the treatment that I was taking. When my body couldn't take it no longer, there was nothing he could do. I said, in other words, just get in the box, dig the hole, and wait. He said, yes. That was the very words he's giving. And I'm too young to get in the box yet, I think.
So you want SEAC?
I want SEAC.
Chemo, every 3 weeks, I have to take this stuff. They say your cells rejuvenate themselves. But sooner or later, I just think it ain't gonna have time to rejuvenate itself. If you said it, I have to do it the rest of my life. The rest of my life, I can't do that. I can't do it.
Are we going to have to unite?
And over again, over and over again. It never stops. It never stops. And I don't want it to stop.
The thing is, we've got to free up the healers to heal. We've got to free up those substances to be utilized and not restricted in a monopoly setting. So this is something that, when we talk about how do we get the cancers cured, they're already there. The cures are all there in food, in selenium, for instance, in trace minerals. I mean, there's so many things out there that today we could be curing cancer.
Right now, I'm fighting the nutrition establishment. In the old days, I was fighting the cancer establishment. So you always have to fight the establishment if you're challenging conventional wisdom.
What drives me is seeing people where they want to know what to do to cure their cancer, and we don't know. We can say, well, statistically speaking, if you take this chemo, you'll reduce your chance of recurrence by 30%. Well, what the hell does that mean? It means maybe, if you had the kind of cancer that was going to come back, and we don't know that, then maybe we can reduce that by a third. So if you had a 3% chance, maybe we can make it 2%. And then maybe the consequences of the treatment are going to increase your chances of getting heart attacks, leukemia, all kinds of other things. I mean, this is really crazy. It's very crazy. We need to understand this disease. We really don't. Cutting off body parts, giving people poison, and then, radiating them means we don't understand it. And if we understood it, if we knew the subtleties and really understood how it worked, we would have a very simple treatment and we would have it solved.
Talking about a revolution. The man said, and I wave my hand. It's a very different type of world now. For a new age is at hand. He spoke, singing to his band. Oh, and he said, hold on to y'all bridges, for it's coming to fast. Hold on to y'all roof kids, for they are headed like rats. Oh yes, headed like rats. So I hit my machine way too hard, when I can help but to strangle your heart.
There is a statistic, and the statistic states that 75% of all chemo and radiation therapies go directly into the doctor's pockets. And the rest of the money goes into the pharmaceutical drug trust companies, as well as the drug industries that promote the drugs that go along with the therapies.
People should be given the right just to, if they want to try something experimental, try it. If they're going to die, then it doesn't make any difference.
Hold on to my bridges, for it's coming too fast. Hold on to your roof kids, for they are headed like rats.
And I'm 72, man. It's time to. Maybe it's just, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I say, you know what? I've seen this before. And it's kind of like, it just might be time. And I like to be around people that laugh, and I want to go out like that. I would like to have a big party.
I'm talking about a revolution. The man said,
And every day in America, every day, 46 families hear your child has cancer. And they have one question and one question only, and that is, what are you gonna do to make my baby better?
For new age is at hand, he spoke, singing to his band. Oh, he said to hold on to my bridges.
So we're all over the place.
Now, do you travel to those?
Where? Beijing. Oh.
Beijing.
And we have an operation, see if we can fit this in. We have a major facility in Beijing as well.
Do you travel to all those?
If I wanted to, I could be gone every day, but fortunately I don't want to. So I visit a lot of those facilities, but it would take me years to visit them all.
So you wanna try on my pair of blue jeans? Not step your way into my cell.
What did you do before this?
I volunteered in my school and I have little kids. I help the homeless and the special ed kids and church, and that's pretty much it. And friends and hanging out, I guess, with them and playing video games.
What's the next plan for you? What do you want to be?
Pharmacology. I want to be a pharmacist.
Was this before the hospital or after?
No, this was before. So just the fact that I'm learning all these medicines now is kind of cool.
Soon to be cancer-free.
You know, rats and mice don't normally get breast cancer. We have to give it to them in order to do the research on them, and it doesn't always translate into women. When I asked the scientists, you know, how come, why can't you do this on women? They said women are too messy.